Folks, welcome in to sportsbookreview.com. It's time to talk a little bit NFL Week 11 on our opening line show. Big edition here. We got an hour to go over those games, get a fresh look, but also take a look at what happened this past weekend in the NFL. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com, and this is a big week for us. And as always, Kyle, I like to look ahead. I think we're getting some favorable weather, which as overbackers, which I am, I like it.
Yeah, I mean, the one game really that looks like it might be the nastiest is this Thursday night game, and it's got the highest total on the board, right? What are we, 58 and a half? Like, good Lord, can you imagine betting the over? I risked it this weekend, taking the 56, and thank God for the Hail Mary that took me over the top. But, yeah, good weather, some good matchups. I do think there's a couple traps in here. So, we're getting down to, like, fantasy football playoffs are getting close. Like week 11, this is insane. It's Thanksgiving time. A lot of fun. I'm looking forward to week 11.
No, certainly am. And the good part about Tuesday's show is, like, I'm having a very good football season. Kyle's having a very good football season. It's enjoyable. We come on each and every week to talk some NFL action here. 73,800 people have subscribed to us here at sportsbookreview.com. We thank you for that. If you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button, turn your notification bell on. Every time we go live to talk a little bit of NFL action, you get it delivered directly to your inbox. Thanks for coming in. And don't adjust your screen. Like, there's always a lot of blue in my background, but there's extra blue, like, right here. And you say, Mike goes this, why would Donnie, an Eagles fan, be rocking a Cowboys jersey? It's very simple, and it's inspirational, as I said, for Tuesdays, because as we take a look at the NFL, if you're having tough times in life, like we might be getting another COVID knockdown here in the United States, if you go to high school, if you're at your job now, always know that there's a brighter day tomorrow, because when we sit you down, Kyle, like Kyle will tell you, he's got his dream job right now sitting next to me talking NFL football. When they tell you, Kyle, you can't be on SBR, Kyle can look at you and be like, you know what? I don't believe that. Ben DiNucci started a game in the NFL on prime time. When you keep moving it down the list, when your kid comes home, Dad, my chemistry test, there's 30 kids in my class. I got 29th. I would sit that kid down and go, son, Ben DiNucci played in an NFL football game live against the Philadelphia Eagles. You can do whatever you want. If you come in last on your team at work in sales, your sales director can sit you down and go, you know what, Donnie? You're struggling this month out there. Ben DiNucci started at quarterback in an NFL game. We can do anything we want in life. So don't look at this jersey as just a Cowboys jersey. Look at it as inspiration. No matter how down in the dumps you are, you can look and rewind and go, Ben DiNucci started an NFL game. And we can always look forward to that, Kyle. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with the sentiment there?
100%. See, I've already failed. I should have teed you up for that. Like, how could I not even bring that up right away? An Eagles fan in a Cowboys jersey. But it's hilarious. And look, you can tell your kids too, hey, Kirk Cousins actually won a Monday Night Football game. Like, it's possible. Anything is possible if you put your mind to it. Good old Ben DiNucci living out the dream. That jersey cracks me up. That's absolutely hilarious. Good call on that. And I don't think he'll be playing this weekend. It looks like Andy Dalton will be back for the Cowboys. But, you never know. A couple of hits here, a couple of hits there. Next thing you know, you might be dusting that thing out, pulling it out of the frame, and putting it back on in a couple weeks.
I mean, it's one of those things in life, because we have a couple extra minutes here, since usually we have a different segment here with the first 10 minutes, but it just shows how everything can work in your favor. Work really hard with what you want to do. Come prepared. I talk NFL sports for a living here, right here on sportsbookreview.com. We are blessed to have this job and the people coming in the chat box. But whenever you need to look to the stars, like most people pray, they might go to church or light one of the candles. Don't do that. Turn your TV on. A miracle happened a few weeks ago, and this is proof. This will go into a frame after the show, never worn again, and will be hanging on my wall. So every time you guys watch the show, I'm like, hey, man, Donnie, you gave me a wrong pick there on Thursday Night Football. You can always look to the background and see, but Ben DiNucci started. It's a brand new week here, so we'll have some fun with it. Thank you guys for playing along. Most people didn't believe I would actually get the jersey, so I had to at least rock it once here live on air. So let's have some fun, talk Week 11 action. Before we get to Week 11, as I like to say, Kyle, Week 10 just wrapped up last night. And, we talk winners and losers. I'm not going to take up any time on my loser because I know exactly who that loser is. But, Kyle, I'll start with you first. Give me some winners from Thursday, Sunday, or Monday last night that we looked at.
Well, I think the Colts right there. You start at Thursday, and I think that was a big win for the Colts. That defense was really good, evening things up in that division, getting those tiebreakers. I like what I saw out of the Colts against the Titans. I think that was a big win for them. And then you sort of just kind of look across the board. Who else? I think the Oakland Raiders the Las Vegas Raiders. See, there you go. That's the first time I've done that this year.
Yep.
You know, it was a tight line. Everyone was wondering if the Raiders are for real. The Raiders have really put themselves in a position to get into the playoffs, especially if if they add another team, if any more games are canceled, which doesn't seem like the NFL is going to do that, but you never know. But I like what I'm seeing out of the Raiders. Winning games they're supposed to win, putting up points against, a decent defense there in Denver. Raiders and the Colts really impressed me this week. I don't want to take all the winners because I'm sure you've got a couple more to go through here.
I got 3 winners that I actually was looking at over the weekend. Teams, it's not like, hey, well, the Steelers are winners. Why? Because they win every game. It's not really the point of week-to-week winners here. The teams that really jumped off the card to me is a lot of people doubted on Thursday Night Football, the Colts going on the road, able to pick up a victory after seeing them going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Frank Reich is a fantastic coach. Getting down 7-0 in that football game and then really putting the screws to the Titans, I thought was remarkable. And then also another team that was down in the dumps from the week before. The Bucs, Brady stinks. Get them out of here. Look at the way they played the New Orleans Saints. They're out of it. Then they come back and show you, no, when we start to get healthy here and we play football the way we're supposed to, they wipe Carolina off the map. Now, is Carolina a great football team? No. But they eviscerated that team. Now moving forward with some injuries to the New Orleans Saints at quarterback, they now move into the limelight here back in the NFC. I thought they were a winner as well. The Miami Dolphins, what more can you say about the Dolphins?
Yeah.
Each and every week, they're working in a rookie quarterback who's 3-0. Brian Flores has that team's attention. All 3 phases of the game is always one of those terms we like to use. Kicking butt on offense, defense, and special teams. Now heading into Denver and a legitimate chance to go ahead and make the NFL playoffs. They were my winners of the week, Kyle. Losers of the week for you next up here, Kyle.
Well, let's just start with losers. It's going to be NFL wildcard weekend when we have to watch a team from the NFC least host an actual decent football team. I think that's going to be sad wildcard weekend. It will be fun to watch them lose. But, I think you got to start right there with the Baltimore Ravens. I know the weather got bad in that game, but there's absolutely no excuse to lose to that New England team. I don't care what the weather conditions are. Then you have Pittsburgh winning, them losing, going 3 games back in the division. They've already lost once to Pittsburgh. Puts a real onus on them to do something on that Thanksgiving night game. Baltimore Ravens, big losers on the week for me. And really, I'm trying to remember another team that I wasn't real impressed with. Obviously, my 49ers, etc. I'm going to say the Chicago Bears last night as well. That was just an anemic performance against a bad defense. I know Minnesota has some talent on offense, but when you hold them to 19 points, if you can't score more than 13 points on the Vikings defense, it's going to be a long season. Now you see the injury to Nick Foles, so they might have to go back to Mitchell Trubisky. And one more, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention those Saints. Yes, they won the football game, but now Drew Brees is going to be out multiple weeks. Looks like, at least 3 weeks, I would say. I know he's looking for second opinions, but, collapsed lung and 5 broken ribs. So now you're going to do this, quarterback by committee with Jameis turnover Winston and Taysom Hill. Last year, they were able to withstand an injury to Drew Brees. You know what? They went 5-1 under Bridgewater. Will they be able to do that again this year? We'll have to see. I think that's a big loss for them and really gives Tampa Bay a chance to separate themselves in the NFC South.
Yeah, my loser of the week, and I'm only going to pick on one football team, and we watched it last night. And I was able to catch 2 out of 3 props in the game last night, but on the show gave out the Bears over 19.5, which should never have had a chance, but for one decent throw that Nick Foles had to make late in that football game, which will put them to 20 points, they missed it. I don't understand the Bears' overall organizational philosophy, and I started ripping on them a little bit last night. You're talking about a team in a big market that doesn't have any competition. You look at the New York market here, Kyle, and you have the New York Jets and the New York Giants. You go out and let's just say the Los Angeles market, right? 2 NFL teams with the Chargers, playing out there as well as the Rams. The Chicago Bears have no competition from anywhere in a major market, and yet grandma runs the Bears into the ground each and every year. Are we just going to talk about how lovable the 1985 Bears in the refrigerator were back in 85? Is that all you have for the Bears to look out for? You're completely inept in your front office. You're completely inept as your GM position and your head football coach, and your team is just in despair with actual components to win. Smoke and Mirrors got out to 5-1. Matt Nagy is a disaster at head coach. He's lucky that he has an ultra defense defense to actually cover up what he does on offense. Mitchell Trubisky was a flat-out bust draft pick. Nick Foles is slow in the pocket with nobody but Allen Robinson to help him out. Then you finally make the change to say, let me get another set of eyes to actually take a look at this offense and call plays because maybe it was the issue. They were equally horrific last night, as if the play caller was like, Matt Nagy said, I'm going to give you the play calling duties, but I'm still actually going to call the plays on the down low because I want credit. If we win, they can go back to it. That was a disaster of monumental performances because we didn't go up against the Steelers. It wasn't Cincinnati going into Pittsburgh and getting shelled and only scoring 10 points. That was a below average defense that you took no shots deep downfield, completely inadequate, and you scored a touchdown on special teams and still weren't able to get your team total of 19.5 or even win the football game. The Bears, for me, Kyle, an epic disaster. Now, as we move on from winners and losers from Week 10, we do have some interesting points here I want to bring up because, as you guys know, I'm more of an over-better, specifically team totals, really focused on that and been crushing it since I've made that change basically full-time since last year. It's fun to root on. You don't really get too many bad beats as you do on sides. So my question to you, Kyle, we pick in the pick six. We'll go over that in just a few moments. Betting sides in the NFL seems more of a coin flip than ever. Games that you figure you have in your back pocket with like a minute and a half to go completely go against you. We're seeing plays at the end of football games. We're throwing Hail Marys. We're taking knees on extra points, ridiculous comebacks, field goals that don't mean anything, like the Cincinnati Bengals getting the over in the game because they wanted to kick a field goal down like 30 points in the fourth quarter. Betting sides is just crazy right now. It's almost like running through traffic.
It's absolutely insane. You sit back sometimes and just wonder how in the hell do they get it so damn close? And then, I mean, look, we saw a couple of them in Arizona. They hit the Hail Mary. If you had Arizona 2.5, they're sitting there at 2, and then they kneel it, don't even kick the extra point. I mean, come on. It's absolutely insane, and it happens way too often. Nick Chubb in that Cleveland game falling down and not going into the end zone, I mean, that killed a bunch of people. It's scary betting sides. I'm with you. I'm starting to lean in. It's really just watching you do it and realizing, hey, this is a better way to go about it. The team total, it's a lot more relaxing to root for as well. You're not just on edge every game. One penalty. I mean, the officials cost more bets than anything else. I swear, every time I'm watching, I'm like, okay, come on, I just need one more score. Boom, a 30-yard play. Okay, holding, bring it back. And so it's just stressful. It's scary. Vegas is really efficient when it comes to football. That's just how it is. The markets are really, really efficient when it comes to football, and betting sides is becoming tougher and tougher. So I'm with you. Overall game totals, team totals, I think are the way to go, and it's certainly a lot less stressful.
No, and even, Kyle, when you take a look, I know you're big on like doing prop bets because you can isolate the situation. And like we like to talk about like how we like to gamble, things that we look at. But imagine like you're going into a game and you say, all right, let's just look at this week. The Eagles and the Cleveland Browns is a 3-point line. If I'm looking to bet Cleveland, I got to look at Cleveland's offense. I got to look at Cleveland's defense. I got to look at the weather. I got to look at how they're going to stack up against an Eagles team. Then I got to flip it over and look at the Eagles team. How are they going to come out to play? When if you just focus on one component, like if you're just trying to isolate Nick Chubb's yards, let's just say going against the Philadelphia Eagles. Healthy now, you can see how he's done in the past, how the Eagles are giving up, and you have to focus on one player, and it's not really a bad beat. I mean, yeah, in the second quarter, he could run for 30 yards and he gets called back, but you don't have those wild swings at the end of football games. Like, I can't believe I just lost that. Like, I was literally counting my money with a 3-point line, and I was up 10 points, and they fumbled, and nobody cared on the last drive. Like, how many times do you get burned on that, Kyle, most of anything? You're looking to cover a 4.5-point spread. It's a 10-point game. Your team no longer cares what the other team does as long as they burn clock. Boom, back end touchdown. Like, why didn't I just go with the team total? Because chances are, if you didn't hit your team total, you probably didn't hit the spread for that team as is because they didn't play that well, you know?
Exactly. No, I completely agree. It's why I do a lot of day drinking on Sundays, but it is, I mean, it's true. It's absolutely maddening, even, just every part of it. And you're right. If you can focus your research into one specific area, you can be a lot more confident with what you're doing instead of trying to cover, every single aspect. No, I mean, we still get those sides once in a while. You're like, okay, yeah, this side feels really easy to me. It doesn't always work out that way. Baltimore, New England's one of them. I mean, I don't think anyone expected New England to win that game. But it is stressful, and now with the advent of more people going for it on fourth down, more people going for 2-point conversions, more missed extra points with it moved back, it's really changed everything. You think you have a game covered. We just had it a few weeks ago with Cody Parkey. You think you have the game covered. Boom, late touchdown, they're going to cover. missed extra point and you're burned. And even though they hit the team total, the offense did everything they're supposed to do, you still don't cover because of a damn kicker. So just there's a lot of things now, playing against you when you're betting sides. So I do like, I think it was really smart. I was actually glad to sort of follow how you did that, because it sort of opened my eyes a little bit to like, hey, this is a way more efficient way to bet on the NFL.
Yeah, and it wasn't this way just a couple of years ago. The advent of more prop bets, more books, more legal outlets. Now team totals really come forward, and you can really expand your horizon of what you like, as opposed to just taking a side, which, again, just looks more and more treacherous, because it's hard enough just to pick the winner in the NFL, let alone get a point spread out there. But you can sort of dictate how the teams play. And again, if your team totals don't hit your totals, there's a pretty good chance your side didn't hit either, because they didn't play all that well, and less of the bad beats. And the good thing about taking a team total specifically, which I'll usually look at teams that are underdogs, there's a chance they're down in the fourth quarter. So when they get the football with 2:01 left and the spread is already gone, it doesn't matter. They punch it in down the field. You still can cash in and keep it moving here. Now, let's take a look at the NFC East, as I'm rocking the Dallas Cowboys jersey here. Maybe the reinvigorated Dallas Cowboys here as they go up against Minnesota this weekend. We'll talk about that game in just a few moments, but just an overall landscape of what we're looking at, because basically any team can win it. The Eagles come into a 5 to 6 week stretch where they're going to go up against a lot of hammers in the NFL, and they're going to take a whooping. They probably look at that schedule, at least I look at it and go, maybe they can win one of these 5 games, which is going to leave that back door open to the Washington Redskins that can't get out of their way. Maybe Daniel Jones finally steps it up, or the Cowboys get some competent play from Andy Dalton, because they are still, to me, the most talented team in the division. Looking forward and betting down the line, it's amazing that a team could possibly win this division, a la the Philadelphia Eagles, with 5 wins and a tie. But the more I look at it, a legitimate 6 wins probably wins the NFC East. Unbelievable.
It's crazy. I mean, we're going into week 11 and 2 teams are tied at the top with 3 wins. I mean, that is absolutely insane. This will be, and I know we've seen it before. We had it a few years ago with Seattle. They went 7-9 and won the division, or 8-8. So, the Marshawn Lynch Seahawks. This is going to be the worst division winner that I can remember since, in the 32 years or so I've been following football since this is going to be a terrible division winner, and they're going to get a home game. It's absolutely incredible. Really, what would you take if they put the over-under at 6 to win the division? Or 6.5, you're probably taking the under. I mean, you really are. Do you think any of these teams are getting to 7 wins? The 2-7 Cowboys and the 2-7 Washington football, like Washington owns some tiebreakers here. They beat the Eagles. That Washington with Alex Smith at quarterback could theoretically win this division. I think they have the best defense in the entire division. Obviously, the offense is terrible. It's crazy to me that one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. I'm not betting any of these teams again unless they're getting point. Like, I'll never take the Eagles as a favorite again, especially after this week. They cost me a huge bet this week. I will never take the Eagles. I don't care if it's 1 point over Alabama. I don't care if it's 1 point over a high school team. I'm not taking any NFC East team as a favorite again this year. Really bad division, bad quarterback play. Not great coaching. I do love Ron Rivera, probably the best coach in that division. Doug Peterson's not terrible. But my God, what a bad division. And one more thing, the New York Giants. You know how sick and tired I am of watching the New York Giants and Joe Judge do that childish high school crap where, they run the punt team out and then 11 players run in from the sideline and they get the hell out of here.
Yes,
this is big boy football. We don't need your Pee Wee Warner BS. Like, get the hell out of here, Judge. I am so sick and tired of seeing that crap from the New York Giants. It makes me scream every time I see it.
Yeah, because so many teams don't do that. So the first time you see it, maybe the other team burns a timeout, but then it's a copycat league. So they see it one time, hey guys, look, Joe's going to keep the offense out there on 4th and 2, and then everybody's going to sprint on and off the field. Just stay out there. They're punting the football and don't worry about it. It is so high school stuff. You see that stuff, and it's funny you picked up on that because I also see it as well. Man, the NFL
pisses me off. It really
leaves a lot to be desired. But let's wrap up the Week 10 as it went pick six contest. Finally got off the schneid after weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of me going 3-3. Actually went 4-2 last week and hit my double down game on the Washington Redskins plus 3.5. Got a nice number early in the week. Wrapped it up last night with the Minnesota Vikings in the pick six contest at minus 2.5. So now moving up here in that 160 range. I need to crack that top 100 by the end of the season, but I'm feeling good about my picks last week. And again, I can't optimize what I like. Like, we can't just go in there like, hey, I'm just going to take team totals and like run it up the flagpole and really do well. You got to take sides and totals in this, which again, to me, is very hard to look at these days. But I'm moving up the ranks here, Kyle. How did you do in week 10 here in the pick six contest?
Another 3-3 week, burned by Baltimore and Philly late, but did have some nice wins. The Bucks were my double down, so I did hit the Bucks times 2. I'm sitting at 125th place, I believe. I'm at 32, 25, and 3 on the year. So not bad. Just a few games out of the top 10 there. Getting 6-0 week here coming up soon. I know that's going to happen. We'll be right up there in the top 10. So it's going well. And you're right. It's hard. It's you can't just bet what you want to bet on there. You got to take the sides and take what they give you. And I have not had anything worse than a 3-3 week all year, so that's nice. It's been 3 or above, couple 5-1s, 4-2s. So 3 pushes, 7 games above 500. I'll take it just about at that top 100 there.
No, yeah, it's a long streak because you can get hot. 1-0-6 week puts you right out there. 1-6-0 week puts you right back up to the top. And also talking about 6-0 weeks, if you haven't gotten in the pick six contest, it's still free. It's still going on. Can still cash in on the weekly prizes. You see the link below where we're talking. SBRpicks.com/NFL will take you right to the pick six page. Great articles up all the way across, as well as if you missed any of the videos that both myself and Kyle put out for NFL Talk in Action, you can get it right there as well. So thank you for checking that out. Also, 18 thumbs up in the chat box. About 100 people watching here live with us. It's now time to flip that page over, Kyle, and start talking about week NFL action for week 11. And we're going to get it kicked off right away with a great Thursday night football game. 321, 322, Arizona, Seattle. About a 50-50 ticket split here as I'm looking at SBRodds.com. How about this opening number, 56.5 for a Thursday night football game? I saw it peak at 58.5 and has now gone back that whole, Kyle, 1 point to 57.5. This line opened up at Pinnacle Offshore 4.5 for Seattle, which I don't know how long that was there for. But now we're seeing the 3s across the board, 3.5s with light juice. As I look at this game, and we broke the game down as we talked about the Rams. It's a little bit different game coming in with the Arizona Cardinals because the Cardinals don't have as good a defense as the Rams did. But the same adage goes, Russ needs to go off 400 yards, 3+ touchdowns for them to have a chance at victory, because it's not under like Seattle's done in the past couple of years. They play one possession game. Like Russ can throw for 450 and 5 touchdowns. The game ends up 44-41. There very rarely are blowouts that the Seattle Seahawks participate in. So we take a look at this game, 3.5. It sticks out to me, and this coming from a guy that in the past said, how can I take the Seahawks because they're home on Thursday night? Completely flipping the script, even taking the road team last week with the Indianapolis Colts over Tennessee. I'm going to jump back in on Arizona. I don't know how Seattle slows down Arizona. And again, Russell Wilson with a banged-up offense now. Lockett comes into this week with a little bit of some knee issues. If he's not 100%, Russ needs to run for 75+ yards, 350 yards in the air, 3+ touchdowns to have a chance at winning. I want to take the dog again here in the Arizona Cardinals here, Kyle.
Yeah, I think you have to. And we just saw this game a couple weeks ago, and of course it went to overtime. It was a close game, and Arizona pulled it out. And you would say, okay, if it's that close and both defenses are absolutely dreadful. I mean, these are 2 really bad defenses, make no mistake about it. Seattle could get Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson back this week. We'll see. The Tyler Lockett thing, they're calling him day-to-day. It's a knee sprain. How healthy is he going to be going on a Thursday? So now, outside of DK Metcalf, where's the offense coming from? Swain and David Moore and, Greg Olsen and Hollister. I don't know. Russell Wilson's awesome. Make no mistake about that. But I think right now you have a healthier Arizona team. Kenyon Drake, making his return last week, should be ready to go. Just more weapons for Kyler Murray to go to against the Seattle team that can't stop anybody. Now, this game, it's early in the week. Again, I'm not a weatherman, but I will be watching. And my sister lives up there, so I'll be giving her a call to see how the weather is that day. But, 47 degrees, possible rain, a typical Seattle, fall and winter type thing. If we're getting 47 degrees and a little bit of rain, with Seattle being minus possibly Tyler Lockett, and if they don't have Hyde or Travis Homer also got hurt, so they're really down to Alex Collins and DJ Dallas, even though the Arizona defense is really bad and so is that Seattle defense, I might be leaning the under here, but I'm with you. I think Arizona's on the rise and Seattle's got some issues to work out, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, they got punched in the mouth last week. And also when you take a look at that Rams game, because we're going to talk a little bit later in the show, that's a pretty good game next Monday night for the Rams in Tampa Bay. We'll be on live for that on our telecast. But as I looked at that game, and I have a lot of interesting topics to talk about with the Rams that we'll say, but looking at Seattle, throw really good defense up against them where they can eat up that offensive line. And again, when you're down to your third and fourth string running back, we forget how well that team operates when Chris Carson is out there completely healthy. I mean, they get after it on the ground. That guy is, 5+ yards per carry. Now the read option comes into play. And also, of course, the play action pass opens up. They look really bad against the Rams. And Russell Wilson making some awful mistakes like that late second quarter interception. I believe it was like 2nd and 9 inside the red zone. Maybe it was even 1st and 10. Just threw a lollipop in the end zone that got intercepted. We'll see how that plays. But if it's over 3 points, I'm really looking at Arizona. And I'm not shocked that Arizona will be able to go into Seattle with no fans and pick up the victory. When I look at this game and try to handicap it, how are they getting there? They can't rush the passer or do anything. So if Kyler Murray has all day in the pocket to do whatever he wants, who says he doesn't throw for 300 yards and run for another 100 yards on Thursday night?
Exactly. Kyler Murray is on fire, and he just did it. He just lit this team up a few weeks ago. Good news, Jamal Adams will be here for this game. He wasn't there for the last one. He says he's going to play anyways. He's still working his way back from injury, but man, there is just nothing on that Seattle defense that says to me they can stop anyone. They have no one who can cover Hopkins, no one who can cover Christian Kirk. They're not good at stopping the run. Kyler Murray is going to make people miss. It's a lot of fun to watch. The Arizona defense is nearly as bad as the Seattle defense. There's no doubt about that. I just think there's more options now, especially if Tyler Lockett doesn't play. It's going to be tough sledding. Now, I will say this. This does have trap written all over it. We're all down on Seattle. We know all the injuries. They didn't look good against the Rams. They didn't look good the week before. Lockett being down. It's still a Russell Wilson team, so there is a trap factor, I do think, especially with how bad Seattle's looked. Everyone's high on Arizona, low on Seattle, so it's, we sort of talk about these things sometimes, but I just don't see how they stop anything that Arizona has to offer, especially now with Kenyon Drake back. They can hit you with 2 running backs, full complement of weapons. You gotta like Arizona in this one, and it's weird to not take Russell Wilson at home. It's really, really weird not to do it, but I think you're right. I think you got to take the dog here, and you're hoping that goes to 3.5. You really are.
Yeah, we'll sharpen those pencils on Thursday and get after it once we see some final inactives and see actually what's what in that football game, who's practicing this week. But Seattle is one of those teams that just doesn't seem to be getting healthier. I know Adams came back last week, but he's almost like an ultra linebacker at this point, getting crushed outside in containment, specifically in the secondary. We'll see what happens. Let's flip it over to Sunday. Again, right in rotational order here. And it just so happens 451, 452, the Philadelphia Eagles, fresh off getting beaten by the New York Giants for the first time since 1955, go up against Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. Kyle, Cleveland Browns have played 2 straight games at home. Played a game, took a bye week, played another game. Horrendous weather conditions in both of those games. Yeah. Very low scoring. One, they got dominated by the Oakland Raiders. The other one, they basically dominated the Houston Texans. Nick Chubb comes back, looks good in that football game. That 2-headed tandem in the backfield between Chubb and Hunt looks very formidable going up here against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, the one thing the Eagles defense is really having trouble with is stopping a rushing quarterback. Lamar Jackson got off, and Daniel Jones twice has gotten off against the Eagles. Baker Mayfield, not so much of that. So maybe that front 7 can sort of focus on that running game. Doesn't leave a lot to be desired because Doug Peterson certainly isn't coaching up the offense to what levels that we would think they would be at, specifically last week, getting a lot of components back on offense. They were non-explosive on offense, didn't even turn the football over, but didn't play particularly well. Now we're expecting them to get up off the carpet, but they do get back into that role, Kyle, that I like the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit more this year, is not playing the favorite, but playing the underdog. You see them in games. Look, they didn't cover against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but damn near won that football game late in the fourth quarter, slide by a field goal. They give up a touchdown the other end. Both me and you won money on it, so it's okay. But then we look again at the San Francisco 49ers game, down a touchdown as a dog on the road, played extremely well in that one. Baltimore Ravens down a couple points at home. They play well in that game and come back. So they're playing that mode where nobody likes us. We're underdogs. We're getting 3 to 3.5. I lean towards the Philadelphia Eagles early in the week, but I do want to see some of these, tea leaves that come out during the week where the Philadelphia Eagles mindset is, because again, they're going to come into this game somewhat healthy, but can they stop that 2-headed monster? And can they go up against the Cleveland Browns and pick up a victory on the road? Odds makers say no right now, but this is one I got my eye on.
Yeah, I mean, I just talked about it. The Philadelphia Eagles broke my heart last week. Now, you can't bet with a grudge. You can't hold a grudge. You got to move on the next week. No doubt about it. These are two teams I don't trust. I don't trust Baker Mayfield when things get tough. And if there's one thing that the Eagles can do, probably the only thing they do well, it's get after the quarterback a little bit. They can rush the passer. So I do have a little bit of concern about Baker Mayfield there. One thing I really like looking at this game, these totals, 45.5, 46. I think that's a fair number. I think both these teams get into the 20s. You finally have decent weather there in Cleveland. I think both these defenses are vulnerable, especially Cleveland's. You can certainly run the ball against the Eagles as well. So I actually like the over 45.5. I think when I'm looking at this game, that's my favorite spot here because I do think both teams get in the 20s relatively easy. I can't trust Philadelphia. I don't trust Cleveland that much. Early in the week, if I'm picking a side, I haven't had a chance to rewatch everybody's last game yet. I'm about halfway through all of that, but I would lean Cleveland just because probably a little bit pissed off at Philly, and I just don't trust them to get it done. But really, this part, the side I like here is the over 45.5.
I do agree with you. I do think there's going to be points in this game, and you're not going to get those 40-mile-an-hour winds. We'll see. It's still early in the week for a lot of things to change, but looking at mid-60s temperatures in Cleveland on Sunday with winds under 20 miles an hour, both of these quarterbacks got decent arms. They should be able to shoot the football downfield. But when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and here's another component when we talk about betting sides, we're so trained on the 3 points, the 7 points, the 10 points, the 14 or the 17, let's just say, in NFL football, that when you look at this and see the 3, throw that out the window with the Eagles. Doug Peterson spins the wheel of magic when he thinks they should go for it on fourth down. Who knows what the hell they're looking at? Or even better, when they go for 2 points. It's like a wheel that you we're going for 2 right now. It doesn't even matter what the hell the score is. So when you see those 3 points, 4 points, 2.5, and you're trying to get that better number and get off the 3, keep in mind, it does not matter with the Philadelphia Eagles. They're so off the charts, and try to explain how it's better to not tie the game or get a 3-point game and keep it at a 4-point game, make it a 2-point game. It's completely asinine. So just keep that in mind when betting the Philadelphia Eagles. You see the 3s and 7s, don't worry about it. Doug Peterson has no idea what those numbers even mean. Let's keep moving forward here. 453, 454. Here's one that you might want to take a look at. A week ago, hey, New Orleans going to blow the door. Here they go, ripping and running. They did pick up the victory, a nice victory over the 49ers. The week before, they smashed Tampa Bay. They're finally healthy. But now Jameis Winston looks like he's going to be your starting quarterback for probably the next month here. Sprinkle in some Taysom Hill. I watched the second half, and Jameis Winston, it's just so odd looking at it in that black uniform with the New Orleans Saints. Didn't look great, but didn't have to do a lot. That Saints defense just imploded the 49ers front offensive line, and nothing mattered in the second half from what New Orleans did. But now you're asking them to score points against the Atlanta Falcons. Do I think New Orleans is still better than the Falcons? Sure, I do, because New Orleans defense is extremely underrated with a dominant pass rush, and we all know that Matt Ryan not really good at getting out of the pocket. Some interesting injuries to keep an eye on. Julio Jones looks like he's going to come into this game healthy, but we do know Kyle Thursday afternoon he'll have some ankle injury, and he'll be questionable, and we'll see if he plays on Sunday. But Calvin Ridley back to running last week. They're going to see where he's out on Wednesday to sort of determine his path to playing on Sunday. That'll be a big occurrence. But you see that short number here, 4.5s, 5s across the board, over-unders of 50.5. Do we just lean on New Orleans because Peyton's such a great quarterback and Jamie's going to have a full 7 days to get ready for this game? Or is it one of those where Atlanta rises up in conference, hey, I can at least play close in this game and lean on the 5? That's what you have to determine in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And Atlanta's defense has been better. And let's not forget, right now they are allowing the 4th fewest fantasy points in the league to opposing running backs. I think that would surprise everyone. I know it surprised me when I was looking into this. And you're right. I watched that second half as well. They didn't really ask Jameis to do a whole lot. You know, it was mainly just handing the ball off. And I do think you see more Taysom Hill. It's really, really tough. Like, I don't trust the Falcons. They have been a problem for me all year long. But man, oh man, if I just look at the 2 quarterbacks here, another thing, Marshawn Lattimore left that game with an undisclosed injury. I'm not exactly sure what that injury is. If Marshawn Lattimore is not there, things get exponentially easier for that Falcons passing game. I think the defense has been playing better over the last 3 or 4 weeks since Dan Quinn left. So right now, even though, listen, I love the Saints in the Dome, but it's Jameis Winston. I know Sean Payton's a terrific coach, and I'm sure he's coaching him up, and they're going to try to do everything in their power not to have him turn the football over 3 times a game, and the Falcons are a good defense to do that against the secondary. Sheffield, Oliver, Terrell, not all that good, but they are playing better. So right now, if I look at Matt Ryan, a healthy offense against Jameis Winston and possibly no Marshawn Lattimore. If Marshawn Lattimore is unable to go or is limited at all, I'm going to take Atlanta. I think I'm leaning Atlanta this week. I can't believe I'm saying that against New Orleans, but I think that's where I'm leaning this week.
Not crazy. It's not crazy to think about because I think the Atlanta offense with next year, and again, they're playing extremely hard under Raheem Morris after Dan Quinn got let go. So they're going to be in this game. It's also, you see that 50.5. I actually think this game will play to the under because I don't think New Orleans just unleashes Jameis Winston. I think the whole thing that they want to see this year out of Jameis Winston is he can be competent in the pocket. He's not going to turn it over. And maybe some other team looking for a quarterback, or who knows if Drew Brees retires, that maybe Jameis Winston can take over for that franchise. So that's something I want to keep an eye on. But also the big plays on offense. It was funny watching the second half with Jameis Winston and even the first half. Like Mike Evans is used to getting his target share and having that ball right where he needs it, 140-plus catches a season. He had 2 routes in the end zone in the third quarter that Jameis Winston just airmailed both of them. And Mike Evans, short fuse. I wasn't be surprised if I heard after the game like Mike Evans just knocked out Jameis Winston in the locker room because he's got to be frustrated. He's not that guy, 50 to 60 catches a year. No. He's used to like 10 catches a game with 15 targets. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out because now with Winston in the lineup, you no longer have that reprieve with Drew Brees. We'll see how everything turns out. But it's an interesting one to see that 5 because you want to get drawn into New Orleans, but you got to remember what you're getting out of New Orleans here. So we'll see how that plays in. 455, 456. Not one quarterback in this game, Kyle. 2 quarterbacks here questionable for this one. Matthew Stafford, if you watched it on Sunday, picked up a victory over the Washington football team with a 59-yard field goal at the gun. Matthew Stafford got hurt in the first half with a thumb injury. X-rays came back negative. He says he's going to be okay for this weekend, so keep an eye on that one. But Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater goes down with a knee injury that, again, MRI came back. They actually got some good news. But we don't know who's going to actually suit up for Carolina. We're anticipating Teddy Bridgewater because if not, we're going Temple style with P.J. Walker or Will Grier, and that certainly doesn't set up well. Teddy Bridgewater's been such a really good quarterback and a good guy in the locker room for Carolina. You'd hate to see him out for this game and specifically have a quarterback coming in that might not be able to perform. So as I look, and also we keep in mind that McCaffrey will not be in this game either. He's going to sit out this week, possibly be back for the following week. So not many lines across the board. Won't spend a lot of time, but looks like it opened up around that 1-2 range, 45.5. To me, this game is complete. I can't stand Detroit as is. If Teddy Bridgewater is playing this game and Carolina's favored by 4.5, I'm all over Carolina. I think they would, plug Detroit. But right now, this game is completely off my radar here, Kyle.
Yeah, me too. We got to wait for the lines to come out. But you're right. If Teddy Bridgewater's there, I'm in. Detroit probably won't have Kenny Golladay. Looks like Danny Amendola also hurt his hip as well, so they could be down 2 wide receivers. So now you're really, you got to get all the Quintez Cephas and Marvin Hall you can handle. Just don't trust it. I like the way that Carolina, that sort of bend don't break defense. I know they got spanked by Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay, they came in highly motivated. I do not trust Detroit, especially on the road. So early in the week, I would take Carolina. Obviously, keep an eye on the quarterback situation. Looks like Bridgewater may practice tomorrow and be ready to go, but it's early in the week, and I will not be upset if I have to watch P.J. Walker. Houston Roughnecks as well in the XFL. They were the only team in the XFL that were fun to watch. Him going up there to Cam Phillips in Houston for those Roughnecks. They were fun to watch. But, right now, don't do anything with this game. Wait to find out who's going to play. But if Bridgewater plays, I like Carolina.
If we keep moving on here, this is a game where you have to, you want to let your eyes tell you what the actual truth is. Because if you look at the football game and say, hey, look at this. Here comes Carolina. Cam Newton celebrating the end zone. They knocked off the Ravens. Now they go on the road. Hey, Deshaun Watson, Houston stinks on defense. But are we ready now to start buying back in New England? Not to actually win football games, but to be favored in football games as they open up as a 2.5 point favorite offshore at Pinnacle. Sit at 2.5 across the board. Over-under opens up at 47. Now sits at 48. They're still completely devoid of talent in New England. So going on the road, is Cam Newton going to be able to dominate and just hand the football? Because you might be able to do that against Houston, as you saw in the windy conditions. A great offensive line for Cleveland, 2 good running backs. They plowed right through that front line for Houston. But my question is, can New England do the same thing without a lot of big-time homer threats? Are we just looking at 7, 8, 9, 10-play drives to pick up points for New England? Because that'll certainly play to the under. Or is this one of those games where when you look at New England's defense, they can be abused. And if Stephon Gilmore doesn't come back this weekend, that's going to be looms much, much larger than a rainstorm up in New England where you don't really have a great pocket passer in Lamar Jackson and not a lot of great weapons on the outside. That completely changes because if Houston comes in healthy at the wide receiver position, Deshaun Watson's going to make some plays because they can't rush the passer. So my question to you, Kyle, I'm not buying in just yet. I don't want the same thing. I don't like certain teams being favored playing that role. I don't want New England playing the favored role where we're buying into Cam. Then you bet the game and Cam has on his, towel over his head, chewing the blue gum. He's already checked out, doesn't care, and his fit is amazing after the game. Or are we going to get this happy-go-lucky Cam? I'm not buying into New England. I don't care what they just did this past weekend.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with this game. I really don't. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Now, listen, Houston, a terrible run defense. So all of the strengths for New England's offense and what they're trying to do absolutely fits to dominating the Houston defense. Houston cannot stop the run. New England also struggles a little bit against the run. You sort of saw it with Baltimore this week. Of course, Baltimore runs on everything. That's all they do, despite what Chris Collinsworth says, saying that Lamar Jackson's a pocket passer. It's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard out of one of those announcers. Sometimes I wonder how Chris Collinsworth, I think, drinks on the air more than I do. I'm pretty certain that's the truth. But, right now, these are two bad teams, two teams going nowhere. New England has a little bit better of a path to the playoffs, obviously, after that win last week. Am I taking them as a favorite? No. Do I trust Houston at all? Not really. I'd probably lean the road dog if I'm picking a side in this game, but honestly, there's no way a single dollar of my money will touch this game this week. Absolutely none.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on this one as it goes forward, but Houston clearly the better offense. The question is New England just going to slow it down? Run Cam 15 times, hand off another 35 times. So their plethora of running backs that they have, and not one of them explosive. So we'll see what happens in that game, but I'm not ready to buy that game. The over-under would be doable, but again, I don't know if it's doable with New England because I don't know what their offense is going to come in and look like this weekend. 459, 460. I tell you, his offense looked good this past weekend, but then again, everybody's offense looks fantastic against those Cincinnati Bengals. Ben Roethlisberger goes on the road as a double-digit favorite down to Florida. Total opens up at 46. Now we're seeing 47.5. That's also a tough number because I do think Pittsburgh can do whatever they want on offense, similar to what they did against Cincinnati. My issue that comes into this game, though, is what am I getting out of Jacksonville against Pittsburgh? Because you do have a quarterback that's still young, played decent the past 2 weeks. They actually were in that football game. They gave Green Bay all they could handle. But going against Green Bay's pass rush and Pittsburgh's pass rush for a young kid is completely different. Pittsburgh #1 overall in the NFL. I don't like Pittsburgh as the double-digit favorite, and I think I know where you tend to go here with Pittsburgh as opposed to home being on the road, which there is something to be said about that. 47.5 seems like a high number. Do I think Pittsburgh get to the high 20s? Yes, but I really question what I'm getting out of Jacksonville's offense here. I lean under in this game during the week, but I don't know if I can't buy into a -10 for the Steelers here.
Oh, that's tough, right? And then after watching what Jacksonville did to Green Bay, now two different teams. Pittsburgh, very good against the run. Green Bay, one of the worst teams in the league, if not the worst team in the league at stopping them, and maybe Detroit and Houston, what we talked about. Jacksonville's right up there as well. Not very good against the run. So now how is Jake Luton going to beat this team? I guess he's going to have to exploit the weaknesses on the left side there with Steven Nelson and maybe Cam Sutton or Mike Hilton. But -10 on the road, Pittsburgh on the road, Ben Roethlisberger, I've mentioned this a million times, a much better player at home, whether there's fans or not. He is better at home. If I'm taking a side, I'm not putting anything on Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville is dead in the water. I hate their coaching staff. I absolutely cannot stand Doug Marrone and that coaching staff. I think they're absolutely dreadful. They're going to have a tough time running the football. I don't know where the first downs are going to come from Jacksonville, so I'd take Pittsburgh early in the week. Again, it's another one where 10-point favorites on the road. You don't make a lot of money betting in the NFL by taking 10-point favorites on the road. It's just not how that works. Unusual year for sure. Not that home field advantage for Jacksonville as if they ever had one. So what? Instead of having 3/4 of the stadium tarped off so the cameras can't tell, they have, all of it. That's basically what you get in Jacksonville. I believe the worst attendance in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. So I lean Pittsburgh, but again, another one where I'm just trying to stay away from. I think you're right. Probably go the under because I just don't see Jacksonville getting more than that 10 or 13 points. So you'd really need Pittsburgh to lay a whooping on them. Could they do it? Sure. Is Jacksonville's defense bad? Absolutely. How motivated will they be week 11 as they're going to 10-0 to pile it on? That's another story. Lean Pittsburgh, but another one I'm staying away from.
Yeah, against Green Bay, the defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars only give up 80 yards on the ground, but 315 in the air. So if you're going to give up air yards, Big Ben can certainly get that done. And we're taking a look at that, Jake Luton-led offense, 109 yards on the ground, only 151 in the air versus Green Bay. But the last two games, it did play tough, losing by 2 points and 4 points. So they are bringing a little bit of attention here to say, hey, we're going to play hard for our head coach, but a rookie quarterback going up against that Pittsburgh pass rush may be a daunting task here. Let's keep moving forward into a really good game. 425 on Sunday, 461, 462. The Green Bay Packers and the Indianapolis Colts here open up at 49 as a total. We've actually seen a movement north now up to 51. Taking a look at the line at SPRodds.com, Pinnacle opened up at a -1 here, now sitting at 2.5, some soft threes across the board. This is a tough one because I've always preached to you guys, when you take a look at Indianapolis, if the weather conditions are right, specifically when they play in a dome and at home, that offense can really operate because Frank Reich will get you in the right spots. It's just a matter of Phillip Rivers has enough time to throw. That offensive line for the Colts is elite. They're coming off a game which they played last Thursday, a couple extra days to prepare. T.Y. Hilton looks like he's better now. Obviously played a decent part in that last game versus Tennessee. Now he gets an extra, 3 days here to heal up to get back at a Green Bay Packers defense that is susceptible. But I'm struggling with this game here because I think 3 is a little bit too much. And again, if you expect Green Bay to win the game, you don't really care about the 3. The same thing against Indianapolis. If you pick the team to win the game, they're probably going to cover the 3 in either direction. But my problem is I think Green Bay does a lot of things that can frustrate Indianapolis, which you saw, the Ryan Tannehill-led offense not making enough plays. You might get Allen Lazard back. You have Devontae Adams coming back in. It was nicked up a little bit in that last game, but came back in the game, did score a touchdown. You have a pretty good running game. I do lean early in the week here for the Colts because I said I love them in a dome. Trying to figure out which way makes more sense, the over-under in this game or maybe a team total, because I actually do, Kyle, think it's a little bit high at 51.5. I think it plays a little bit lower than that here.
Yeah, the Colts are going to run the ball against Green Bay. That's the weakness of the Green Bay defense, and the health of Jair Alexander will be a big factor as well. Can they focus on one side and run man-to-man coverage with Jair Alexander against a less than stellar wide receiving core for the Colts? But again, Green Bay struggles to get after the quarterback. They struggle against the run. And when they play tough defense, the Colts sort of remind me of the 49ers last year. A really good defense. They run the ball with, 2-3 different running backs. Kind of a mediocre passing game. They're looking to go off a play action and hit the crossing routes. I think everything lines up where these tough games, especially on the road, we've talked about Aaron Rodgers' mediocre record on the road as opposed to being in Lambeau. I just think that defense of the Colts takes away the strengths of the Green Bay offense. And for some reason, Matt LaFleur doesn't seem to want to use Aaron Jones the way Aaron Jones should be used. He's got this weird infatuation with Jamal Williams, which I'll never understand. So I always like to say, cram it in your cram hole, LaFleur, because I can't stand it. It's like if you take a Packers job, just like Mike McCarthy, it turns you into
outsmart yourself.
Yeah, they just turn into morons and do stupid. And I like the Colts right now. I just think they're too tough. I think Green Bay is soft. They can't stop the run. I think they'll absolutely struggle to run the ball against the Colts. It's going to take a Herculean effort from Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. I like the Colts right now. I think their defense is too tough, and they're able to run the ball against a soft Green Bay team.
They're always in the right position, man. When the one thing that as a gambler, when you take the Indianapolis Colts, you know the performance that you're going to get. It's very rare you come into a Frank Reich-led Colts team like, oh my God, I didn't expect this. They really weren't up for this game. This is a really good team. And one of the tweets I put out last week, when Darius Leonard plays middle linebacker for the Colts, they are elite on defense, and their record shows it specifically with the overall yards that they give up on defense. Obviously, he's going to be healthy for this one. That is a key ingredient, but you're so right about Matt LaFleur. Like, you saw Aaron Jones come back after a long layoff against the 49ers. Like, man, this offense really moves. And every time I'm watching the game Sunday, he's not even in the game. It even had me to the point, Kyle, where I'm checking to see if he was hurt again or something happened pre-game. That guy should be out there like Dalvin Cook is out there for the Minnesota Vikings. You're right on that Packers preaching point there. Let's keep moving forward here. Sunday, 463, 464, 1 o'clock game. The Cincinnati Bengals, fresh off a beating going up against the Washington Redskins, but fresh off a beating to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Alex Smith, who did have a nice game, threw 400 times in that game, didn't throw more than 2 yards downfield, almost had them in position for a victory after getting whitewashed right up to the third quarter. but a 59-yard field goal does them in. Now they snap back to a team they should be able to move the football against. You can do whatever you want to Cincinnati's defense, specifically if you have big weapons at wide receiver. They have a couple decent outlets, but it's just a matter of Alex Smith is willing to push the ripcord and let it go deep and really expose this horrendous secondary for Cincinnati. I look at this game. I think Washington is a better team, but I got to tell you, man, sniffing around the chicken coop right here and trying a way to take an underdog team on the road, specifically with a rookie quarterback. And this might be the week to do it, because here's the angle I'm looking at for the Cincinnati Bengals. We talked earlier on Sunday about this. You take a look at Cincinnati. It ain't as if they're playing the Eagles, the Giants, and I mean, well, they did play the Eagles, but early in the season, but an easy schedule. Look at their last 5 games. At Baltimore, at Indianapolis, Cleveland, Tennessee, and Pittsburgh. Now you get Washington. I think Joe Burrow bounces back this week. I think they could score some points, and I think they can win this game outright here.
Well, I got blitzed last week taking the Bengals to cover. Not just blitzed, like it was done, and it was done early. That was one I didn't need to see any more of. And then Washington obviously made that great comeback against Detroit, which isn't saying much. I worry, you sort of talked about this when you took Pittsburgh last week. You worry about Joe Burrow against a good pass rush, especially with how bad that offensive line is. Washington is an underrated defense. I think Washington actually has a pretty solid defense. They play hard. They can get after the quarterback. This game is really, really tough. I don't think there's a lot separating these teams. I mean, it's weird that Alex Smith is throwing for 400 yards. It is a little bit bizarre. So I got to take Washington right now. I'm not in love with it. I'm still going to look into this. I'm going to try to force myself to rewatch that Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game, but I might go back a couple weeks and watch some of the games they played better just so I don't have such a negative mindset. Joe Burrow's been a backdoor cover guy all year long. This isn't a backdoor cover. You need to pick them to actually win the game. Could they? Of course. Is there a lot separating these two? No. I'm going to give the slight edge to that Washington defense to frustrate that Bengals offense. So early in the week, I'm going to lead towards the Washington Snyders.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're not a bad football team. And I took their team total on Sunday. Was very happy with the outcome. Was a little bit, despondent in the first half because they kept driving to within the 30-yard line and not able to pick up any points. But anytime you can effectively move the football, because as I said, Cincinnati is I'm best friends with Cincinnati's defense because it doesn't matter what week I bet them for a team total. It's like the cash register is ringing. Now we'll see if they can do it again because you don't have a big pass rush. Washington should be able to hold up in that game. You don't have any secondary. It's just a matter of what offense that we're actually going to get out of Cincinnati because keep an eye. If Mixon comes back, that's a legitimate offense, and you might get some of those components back on the offensive line as well for Cincinnati that have been banged up for the past couple weeks. So something to keep an eye on. 465, 466, a 1 o'clock game. It's a pretty good one here. Tennessee and Baltimore. Which team bounces back off their last loss? Baltimore, not much to like going on the road in a monsoon, taking a loss to the New England Patriots, and vice versa. Tennessee got rocked by Indianapolis at home, so we'll see who comes to play in this one. And a lot of people I saw on my timeline pretty confused about the Baltimore Ravens opening up -6.5. A lot of banged up bodies. Obviously, Ronnie Stanley went down 2 weeks ago. You lost another blocking tight end this week. Don't look as explosive. When you used to see Lamar Jackson, Kyle, of the past 2 years, running away from defenses, now seeing him try to turn the corner, some defensive ends are getting a hold of him. Tennessee does have a formidable offense, but that defense is a big question mark. We should get some good weather down there in the Charm City in Baltimore. An over-under that sits at 49. I think there's enough chinks on that defense for Baltimore where Tennessee should be able to get into the 20s, and outside of those wicked weather conditions up in Boston, also the Ravens should be in the 20s as well. I think this game plays to an over for me early in the week.
Yeah, the over is what I like looking at this game, and I like Tennessee. Now listen, if you're going to take Baltimore -6.5, you may as well also pair that up and take them first to score because Baltimore is not winning this game by a touchdown if they don't score first. They absolutely struggle playing from behind. I think what's Lamar Jackson 1-7 now and playing from down 7 points or more in the second half. They are a front running team. And look, now with Brandon Williams hurt up front, no Calais Campbell, we saw it. They struggled to stop that New England running game until they started just bringing the house and bringing everyone up in the box. You cannot do that against Tennessee. They will burn you on the outside. A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, etc. Ryan Tannehill, a much better throwing quarterback, obviously, than Cam Newton is. So I like Tennessee to cover right here. I think that's a little bit too easy. Now, it could be a trap. We're all down on Baltimore. Tennessee also lost to the Colts. But when you look at that front, if you can't stop the run, against the Tennessee Titans, it's going to be a long day. And even though Tennessee's defense is not very good, in fact, they're bad, in my opinion, as soon as Adoree Jackson gets back and Desmond King gets a little more involved, you will see, with Malcolm Butler, that secondary will settle down a little bit, but they have the worst pass rush in football, which is not good when you're facing Lamar Jackson. But maybe it's a benefit, too. They can sit back. They're not going to worry about blitzing or putting pressure on Lamar. They're going to force him to throw from the pocket. And if he tries to roll out, you have your guys sitting back, not really up the field, so those lanes aren't necessarily created for Lamar Jackson. I like Tennessee, and I don't mind Tennessee to win outright. We saw what they did to them in the playoffs last year. I don't think either team is much different. I would say Baltimore's worse, and Tennessee's probably about the same. So I like Tennessee. I think Derrick Henry runs it right up the throat. Baltimore is going to struggle if Brandon Williams doesn't play, and also without Calais Campbell.
Yeah, you bring up the last 2 points were exactly where I was going here. Brandon Williams, Calais Campbell, they're the two guys that beat you up on the front line. They're the ones that you watch when you see a Baltimore Ravens defense and wonder why there's no push on the offensive line, because they beat the hell and are so much more physical than the guy they're going up against. That not there. You saw that once Brandon Williams got nicked up in that New England game, it was on and popping up the middle. And you want to talk about King Henry rushing downhill using that play action, that's going to be big in this game. So I do think it plays well to an over. And usually you don't want to think that way because, again, the book is out on Lamar Jackson, and Vrabel has a really good book of beating Lamar Jackson at his own game. Should be interesting to see what pops up in that game, but keep an eye on those injuries, as you always see those injury reports and the practice reports come out daily. That's a massive loss if Williams doesn't go against a run-heavy front there for Tennessee. 469, 470, back to 425 on Sunday. Dallas and Minnesota. Andy Dalton's got the clearance to get it going for the Dallas Cowboys. Last time we told the Dallas Cowboys, very valiant effort against an upper echelon Pittsburgh Steelers team. Now going on the road and playing Minnesota fresh off a Monday Night Football game. They didn't look all that great, and game being in the balance in the second half, down in the second half, obviously after the kick return at halftime by Cordell Patterson. But now we look at this game. It opened up at 8.5 at Pinnacle. I haven't saw it as high as 9s. The buyback is on. Minus 7.5, and some 7s are now out there. I agree with it. I like the Minnesota Vikings. They should be able to do whatever they want to the Dallas Cowboys defense. But again, you're talking about a team that you might like more in that dog role or short favorite role. You're asking them to win by double digits here versus a rested team for the Dallas Cowboys. Depending on what we get out of Andy Dalton, if we get that same spirited effort that we saw against the Pittsburgh Steelers before the bye, we can also keep in mind the Dallas Cowboys maybe a little bit more invigorated. Say, hey, Eagles lost, division's back up for grabs, we're rested and ready. There's no fans in the stands. Let's go out and put on a decent performance because, again, I always like to use the moniker, we're gamblers. We're not asking Dallas to go win. We're just asking Dallas to lose 27-20 here.
Exactly. And God, I do not like it when the odds makers force me to bet on Mike McCarthy. It makes me very, very angry and sick to my stomach. But and I'm looking at this total at 48. If Andy Dalton just plays competent, both these defenses are really, really bad. These are two of the, probably 7 worst defenses in the NFL. So I think it goes over the 48 as long as you can, if you can trust Andy Dalton to be competent. Those 3 receivers should have a field day against this Minnesota secondary. It is a bad secondary. Now, I know they looked okay yesterday because Nick Foles and the Bears are so incompetent on offense. But when you've got Cooper and Lamb and, Michael Gallup and Zeke Elliott to get healthy for another week, I think the Dallas offense is able to move the ball. I like Dallas to cover, and I like the over in this game as I look at it. Minnesota on a short week. It's in the Dome. I think it goes over, and I just can't trust that defense. I think it's a rude awakening for that Minnesota defense, maybe feeling themselves a little bit at playing an anemic Bears offense. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm going to take, not to win, but I'm going to take Dallas to cover, and I do think it plays to the over 48.
Yeah, you do exploit that Minnesota secondary when you have weapons, which the Dallas Cowboys do at wide receiver, which the Chicago Bears do have some guys fleet of foot, but for some reason they run no vertical routes and don't care to throw the ball deep. That's another show for another story. But we'll see what Dallas comes in at, because also Andy Dalton's an older, aging veteran. Last time he was on a football field, he damn near got killed out there. He's going to be a little trigger shy in this game, so that's something to keep an eye on. But it's nice that he was able to sit out. They didn't rush him back. He got clearance. He'll practice all week, so maybe something to keep an eye on as we look forward to here between that Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings. Let's go to the Sunday night football game, 471, 472, Kansas City and Las Vegas. Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders shifting gears, Kyle, leaning on their offensive line that was banged up last week, but dominated and and have now a two-headed running game with Booker and also Jacobs, which looks fantastic, which is the best friend of your quarterback when you can hand off and get yards, because when you run that play action, linebackers and safeties get sucked up. You got some speed guys that can take care of it deep. But now you're going up against Kansas City, and the thing I like to read about here about Andy Reid was the fact that they didn't like the last time they saw the Raiders come to town, beat them, then drive around the stadium a couple times honking their horns like, Raiders house. So keep an eye on that one as this game moves forward. But now we're looking to see a 6.5 across the board, 56.5 with points. I do think we get points in a nice sterile environment in Las Vegas. The question I have is revenge on the mind for Kansas City, but I really liked what I saw on Sunday, specifically out of the defense for the Raiders and the fact they already have beaten Kansas City. This isn't a team going in saying, hey, we can't compete with these guys. Let's hope to keep it close. They beat them. They expect to win. But, as I like to say with the but, Kansas City's a damn good football team, and you're only asking them to win by a touchdown here.
Yeah, and you pissed them off, right? Like, you pissed them off, and if you think Patrick Mahomes isn't pissed off about it, if Andy Reid's pissed off about it, you're crazy. I think Kansas City comes out very, very motivated, and with Bashaud Breeland back, it's going to have that defense. They didn't have Bashaud Breeland that last time they played. Raiders have, besides last year and other years, kept it pretty close with Kansas City. Anytime from now on, when I'm getting a lesser team, a much lesser team, and I'm getting under a touchdown with Patrick Mahomes, I'm taking it. We got Carolina last week because they were 10.5-point dogs, and Carolina was able to cover. This week, 6.5. I'm even seeing 6 at bookmaker with some weird juice. Under a touchdown, I'm taking Patrick Mahomes. Think motivated. Bad idea for the Raiders to piss off Kansas City. They take the L this week, and I think it won't shock me if Kansas City does it by double digits, because this will not be a game where they have a lead and they sort of let off the brakes. They are going to beat the brakes off of Vegas. And I have to say, it's weird hearing Las Vegas and sterile environment in the same sentence. I got to say, every time I've been to Vegas, it has not been sterile, at least where I was at in Vegas. Anyway.
Yeah. Taking a look here, we're going to talking about the Raiders game, just skimming over Twitter as we go. The Raiders have placed defensive end Cleveland Farrell and safety LaMarcus Joyner on the reserve COVID list. Now, again, that doesn't mean that they tested positive. They could just be in close contact. And if that's any indication, the NFL is saying, we have to put this out there for reasons of legalities, but these guys will probably be at practice within the next 2 to 3 days. Just keep an eye on that, because the one thing I think the NFL does a disservice to, specifically for gamblers, they need to separate these lists, Kyle. And what I talk about here is there's only one list, the COVID reserve list, which you can have COVID or you can contract COVID. You go on that list. They don't really tell you the difference or when you come off of. I wish they would separate it as like a contact COVID list, which means you're eligible to come back, or the actual COVID list, which means you can't, because you immediately see stuff like that, like, oh, let me run to the other side. But you got to do your due diligence on this, because even last week with Kyle Van Noy for the Dolphins, they were reporting, he's out. He's not going to play on Thursday. Miraculously, a day later, hey, by the way, he's back in and playing. Those are some big swings and misses that you want to keep an eye on, but just something to keep in look out for later in the week. So a little bit banged up, some COVID issues for those Raiders. 475, 476, 4 o'clock game on, I can't say really the West Coast, out in Denver. Miami charging towards the playoffs. Could they even make a run at the AFC East? Keep in mind, going up now against the Denver Broncos, who look so out of sorts. Their offensive line was so bad on Sunday versus a very underwhelming Las Vegas Raiders defense. Anderson, the young right tackle, got just completely beat up. DeMar Dotson will probably be back. That'll help. But now also surfing Twitter right here saying Drew Lock has a bad muscle strain and bruising, and it's considered day-to-day. They don't know if he's going to play in this game, which I got to tell you, might not be a bad thing for that Denver offense if they get Driscoll back in, who actually performed okay when he was thrust into that game in Pittsburgh and damn near beat the Steelers outright in Pittsburgh back in September. So I don't know how big of a swing that's going to be, but you know me, Kyle. I'm going to put on my backpack, because if Drew Lock is not playing in this game, all of a sudden I'm looking again at a Denver Broncos team total that will be low. And the reason I laid off it last week, I said, look, you can't take these Drew Lock games where you have 3 points at the half and expect miracles in the second half. Yeah. Damn near the same thing happened. If you take him out of the equation, maybe you lean on those 2 good running backs that you have. Maybe you get a better offensive line performance. Maybe the footballs are delivered to Jerry Jeudy and also Tim Patrick and not way over their head. Something to keep an eye on. But I got to tell you, the 3s and the 3.5 across the board, I can't tell anybody not to take the Dolphins right now. I can't do it.
Yeah, you just can't trust Denver, and you're right. They start so slow, and Atlanta gives up leads to everybody. So, reading too much into that comeback a couple weeks ago, we sort of talked about it on the show as well. It might be better if they don't have Drew Lock. But again, am I going to then bet on Jeff Driscoll? Probably not going there either. I like Miami this week. I think those corners really can shut down. It's not an I mean, Jerry Jeudy's a fast, explosive young kid, but this isn't an overwhelming wide receiving core anyways for Denver. So then you bring in Jeff Driscoll. If they're able to load the box, Brian Flores, terrific coach, terrific defensive-minded coach. Sitting here 3.5. Anything under a touchdown, I actually like Miami. I think they're trending up, and Denver is trending down, down, down. I like Miami this week, no matter who plays at quarterback for Denver.
I can't even preach against it. Like, we're talking about sharp plays. Remember how sharp Denver was going from 5-3 in that game just this past weekend versus the Raiders, and they got absolutely busted up. The game felt like even worse than what the final score was. Drew Lock was making dumb pass after dumb pass after dumb pass, like he always does. So it's one of those where when you take Drew Lock and he throws interceptions, don't get mad that this is what you anticipated and you still think they can win the football game. So if he might take a step back, because the last thing I want is the one thing you like about Drew Lock, he's athletic in the pocket. He leaves it too early, but he's got a cannon and can make every throw. I don't really know if I want Drew Lock already with banged up ribs and playing. This just doesn't sound like a
and
great
it
scenario.
might be Brett Rippon too. That's a good point in the chat. He did get a start as well, so it could be Brett Rippon as well. I mean, we just don't know. We have to wait till later in the week. For right now, you got to take Miami, right? I mean,
if it's Brett Rippon, just like we're going to take that wagon up there in the Miami Dolphins. Bust them up. So we'll see what happens. But the Denver Broncos defense, not too bad. Drew Lock is such a wild card in this one. It'll be interesting to see how it flows. 4:05, last game we'll talk about on Sunday before we tap on this Monday Night Football game. The New York Jets, all right. The Chargers, neither team really likes to win football games. One team wants the number one overall pick. The Chargers looking like they're just trying to get their head football coach fired. I saw some video last week of Austin Eckler running, because that is a huge ingredient when he gets back in the fold to help that rookie quarterback. I doubt that he's just going to run in a straight line last week and they're going to rush him back on a lost season, so maybe it takes another week to get him back. But I'm interested to see that offense, if it's healthy with Herbert and getting Eckler back as that third down satellite back, and he can carry, because you're getting some decent play out of their already young running backs here. But as we take a look at this, I don't like the Jets. I thought they played well against New England Patriots, just in that one-night explosion. Now they go up against the Chargers. There's not much to play for here, but are we trusting the Chargers giving up 9 points in this game? Come on, man. No way.
No way. I mean, Adam Gase, horrible head coach. You know who's right behind him besides Mike McCarthy? Actually, McCarthy's worse. Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn doesn't know how to coach to win. The Chargers do not know how to win, and trust me, there are plenty of times. I've been to plenty of Charger games in my San Diego days where they're supposed to win. They're playing a lesser team, and they either barely win, or more often than not, it was Phillip Rivers down by 3, down by 4, 16 seconds left, no timeouts left. That hasn't changed. Justin Herbert, very good young quarterback. Obviously, you don't love betting on Joe Flacco. I want absolutely nothing to do with this game. I hope this game is not on my Red Zone channel too much this week, but honest to God, there's no way in hell I'm giving 9 points. I'm laying 9 points at the Chargers, so I got to take the Jets. It makes me sick to my stomach, but if I'm picking a side, which again, I will not have any of my money on this, I'm taking the Jets.
Now, I do want to leave it because, as I say, I don't want to take the Chargers in this game. Let's keep an eye on why Joe Flacco was able to do what he did on Monday Night Football and look competent. You're probably looking at one of the least athletic defenses and pass rushes, specifically coming from the New England Patriots. So if you don't put any pressure on Joe Flacco, he can operate, throw the ball deep, and their wide receivers are now getting healthy, so he has some weapons to throw to. But pop on the tapes for Joe Flacco against an elite pass rush. And why I'm talking about this, if Joey Bosa comes back, which I was surprised he sat out last week against the Miami Dolphins, if you put him with Ingram on side to side, that is a heavy pass rush coming for Joe Flacco when he wants no part of that at his career. So keep in mind, again, as we stress, we'll be back Thursday and also Sunday to talk about it. If those two defensive ends are in, Joe Flacco is going to be in some trouble, and he wants no piece of anybody in his face from a pass rushing perspective, which, again, the New England Patriots weren't able to do. Monday Night Football, good one here. It's already on the grindstone, almost took a play a little bit early today on the team total, but backed off it the more I thought about it, because I wanted to go back and watch the full game between the Seattle Seahawks, poorest defense, playing up against the Los Angeles Rams. Key ingredient, left tackle Whitworth going to be out for this football game, obviously for 6 to 8 weeks. One of the best left tackles in football, which already leaves you a little bit exposed now when Jared Goff gets pressure. What does Seattle not do on defense? Pressure the quarterback. They would have lived through it, scored 6 points in the second half, a closer than what the final score aspect was, but that defense for the Rams is legitimate. taking a look at this game now, they're going to go up against a heavy pass rush that is back on course for Tampa Bay and an extremely athletic team. It's the last scenario that I want because I saw the Rams with some juice at a team total of 20, which, Kyle, seems ultra low to me. But the one thing that the Rams don't deal with is specifically Jared Goff, a pass rush that can bully him. Now you're down your best left offensive tackle. We'll see how banged up Cooper Kupp is coming back to this game. You saw the Tampa Bay team get right. I look at that 3.5 out there, and I like Tampa Bay here. I really do.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp, I'm glad you brought Cooper Kupp is a critical part of this game. When you look at Tampa Bay, their biggest weakness is in the slot. They are really, really bad defending slot wide receivers. We saw what DJ Moore did last week. We sort of talked about it on, with our DFS and whatnot, that there's going to be an advantage there in the slot. And so they really need Cooper Kupp if they're going to stay in this game. It really comes down to which quarterback do you trust more? Do you trust Jared Goff on the road or Tom Brady at home? Now, we did just see Tom Brady get absolutely embarrassed and this Bucs team get embarrassed at home in a primetime game against the Saints, and the Rams certainly have the defense to do that. But now trusting Jared Goff against a very good Tampa Bay team, a team you're not going to be running the football well against, so that play action sort of goes out the window. Those little, naked boots with Jared Goff on the move, they're just not going to be really falling for it because, Henderson and Akers and Malcolm Brown are not going to find the same sort of success on the ground. So I think I'm right there with you early in the week, especially if I have questions about Cooper Kupp. And again, no left tackle. Whitworth is a huge loss against that great pass rush. I'm right there with you. I got to jump back on the Bucs bandwagon and go Tampa Bay over the Rams.
Yeah, and again, we always talk about, you bet on Jared Goff. It's so frustrating because they have a dynamic play caller, great wide receivers, tight end. They got a running game, and he just doesn't seem to put it all together. But also that same thing I talk about with Jimmy Garoppolo and the San Francisco 49ers. I think McVay knows he has a really good defense and a solid offense. He just doesn't want his quarterback to lose it, which he's a number one overall pick, franchise guy, huge paycheck, and you don't let him let it rip. And what I'm talking about, look at the last 4 games, Kyle. They lose 24-16 to San Francisco. They beat the Bears 24-10. Then they go to Miami 28-17 and Seattle 23-16. Those are underwhelming offensive performances when you're going to have to step up your game against an ultra athletic defense at home, and Todd Bowles likes to bring the pressure. And again, you're banged up on your front line. It doesn't set up well. I like the Rams defense. They're going to be in this football game.
Oh, yeah.
But that 3 just looks a little bit light for me. So that's where we'll leave it here. Nice talking to everybody out here in the chat box. Over 200 people steady throughout the show. Thank you for coming in and spending a little bit of time with us here on Tuesday to talk some Week 11 opening lines. As we know, both myself and Kyle will be back on Thursday, same time, 4 p.m. We'll bring in Kelsey Kramer, talk a little Pick 6 contest action, and certainly sharpen up those pencils for Sunday, but also get you ready for that really good Thursday night football game between the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. Then, of course, on Sunday, Kyle and I'll be back letting it rip at 12 p.m., getting you set for those 1 o'clock games. Have a lot of fun on that final edition of our closing line show. But again, thanks for tuning in to us. You guys have been so wonderful. 73,800 people subscribing to the channel on YouTube. If you haven't done so, click that subscribe button, turn the notification bells on so we come back on Thursday to talk some NFL football. And you forgot the time, you'll get that notification to pop in and say hello in the chat box. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com, and this was your NFL opening line show for Tuesday. Good luck on your wagers.